Okay, we are back, and I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth from Barbara from Savannah, Georgia. Elizabeth, thanks for sharing. Regina from Missouri City here in Texas. Felicia is also from Missouri City. Sheila Lewis, we got Humble in the house. Miss Lewis, how are you doing? Deborah Payne. We have Goddess Purple Mom from Missouri City. I think Missouri City is all over the place here. Norma Aldain is from wherever. JW, she's from Boston. Hello. I know JW. Dan Little, how are you doing? Regina Coleman. Didn't know about liver dysfunction. Yeah, that's an important. Liver dysfunction is really, really important. And when you think about cholesterol abnormalities, blood sugar abnormalities, buildup in fat tissue, etc. You want to think about the liver. And oftentimes, and I have a great sensitivity to liver dysfunction because I think there's a liver dysfunction undergirds, I think, all of the metabolic disease and undergirds a lot of other diseases. And I'm sensitive to that because my mother died from liver failure and had progressive liver dysfunction. She was a type 2 diabetic, had high blood pressure, coronary disease, and she was on the so-called diabetic diet, plus all the standard medication, like 10 of her medications, or 8 out of the 10 of the medications were metabolized through the liver, plus you had the dead animal flesh food and all that on the so-called diabetic diet. And when she died, there was certain things, I won't go into the details, but she had to have an emergency surgery, and when they looked inside the system, she had liver cirrhosis. So she had progressive fatty liver buildup, and non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, leading to progression of inflammation, which she had to have surgery for a brain tumor, which was easy to remove. She was put on medication that further, had to be removed from the liver, and it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And so what we do is we look at liver dysfunction very carefully. So most physicians will just measure liver enzymes. And liver enzymes, in many cases, perhaps most cases, will not be elevated because liver enzymes are elevated when the liver cells are inflamed, they're irritated. So they release enzymes. But the cells can be sick but not irritated. And so when the cells are sick, they're dysfunctional. So we check things like albumin level because, hepatic cells make protein, particularly albumin. We check PT and INR because those are coagulation markers. So there's an indirect way of looking at enzymes that are made for blood clotting. And we look at ammonia level. And so if the ammonia level is high, normal, or a little bit elevated, then that's a sign that there's some liver dysfunction, even though liver enzymes are normal. And I remember one patient shared with me, she saw a GI doctor, and then the GI doctor said, well, they did an imaging study that shows some early signs of fatty liver, et cetera. But the GI doctor said, well, there's no problem with your liver because the enzymes are normal. But no, there's a problem. It's just that enzymes, can be normal and you can have pretty advanced liver disease. And so that's one thing. It's really important to be concerned about liver dysfunction. So how do you stop liver dysfunction? Well, think about the medication you're taking in. You take a lot of acetaminophen. You're taking medication with chemical dyes, preservatives. Read the labels. See all those chemicals. Many of those things have to be broken down by the liver. So I don't know. It's also, what's been your experience with your clients on liver problems or the like?
Well, I actually recently helped somebody go from really bad fatty liver situation to his enzymes being normal.
Mm-hmm.
And really it was just, one, I had to make him stop drinking alcohol.
That's an obvious one there. Okay.
Yeah, so
night.
with the particular patient that I'm talking about, I had to observe what their body type was, and I observed that they were a body type that was extremely carb sensitive. So alcohol was a no-no, refined sugars, all that stuff. So we definitely had to control the way his, the amount of sugar in his diet overall, including the alcohol, and then including in the plant-based diet stuff, exercise. It's really just the same stuff as, as almost anything else. But within... Yep. It's been a year, and now the enzymes are normalized, but it took even 3 months. Within 3 months, he had lost like 22 to 25 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I bet a lot of fat came off that liver too.
Yeah, a lot for sure.
Indigo Fire wants to know where I'm located. I'm from Mars. I'm here visiting the planet Earth for just a few days. Now I'm located in Houston, Texas. I'll put that in the chat. Let's see. I think people can remember that, but I'll just put it in the chat anyway. And so, but thanks for asking. Let's see. Hello, Norma from Ontario, Canada. JW. Oh, JW, Houston, Texas. Wait a minute. I got the wrong JW. Montgomery Heart and Wellness located in Houston, Texas. Okay, yeah. So JW is answering the other question. And Diane Little's laughing out loud. So the thing is that being aware of the underlying mechanisms of type 2 diabetes. So if you have family members with, type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you really want to change their diet or encourage them to change their diet. And I strongly recommend a clean plant-based diet. If you go on our website, MontgomeryHeart.com, Jumpstart, there's a little detox protocol we have on our website. Just look at MontgomeryHeart.com and there's some information there. But just going to a plant-based diet, removing animal protein from the diet, removing processed carbohydrates, fried foods. I mean, you pretty much know what these foods are from your diet. You do that for a short period of time, you'll notice that your insulin requirements will go down, your diabetic pills will go down. Now, make sure you let your doctors know because, these changes can have very drastic change in the blood sugar. And if you're taking a large amount of insulin, you're going to have to come off the insulin, reduce the insulin. So make sure you work with your doctor on making these changes. But, making these changes can be very, very helpful in terms of improving your overall well-being. A lot of what you're sharing about doctors misunderstanding labs is a big reason. I've always kept track of my own lab results. It's scary to think about conditions that may be missed. And again, and I'm not trying to be critical. I think, there's a lot. Medicine is really difficult these days. I mean, I'm right in the thick of it. And, I have, mid-levels and cardiac nurse that sort of help me keep track of things. Because, we're just inundated with just lots of things related to medicine. And it's really a bureaucratic business process. It's less about healing patients and more about, crazy stuff, third-party payers and the like. And so lots of doctors just caught in this, cycle of things. And I remember seeing one patient and he came to office. He said, well, I did a telephone visit, a Zoom visit, televisit with the doctor. And they, we came online and I could just tell the doctor's just not looking at my chart and asked me a few questions and see you back in 6 months. And it's not a criticism. It's just the system that we're in. And what we've done at Montgomery Heart and Wellness, we created a condition where we have time to sit, with the patients and all. And some people complain about the weight and whatnot, and the complexity is on each side. But we try to focus on, underlying mechanisms and talking to patients. And I know Esosa does a similar thing with her clients, but she's not caught in this vicious cycle that the rest of us are in. but still, it's the same process. So here's someone saying, Indigo 5, it's hard to do plant-based when you're told to give insulin by insulin to carb ratio. Yeah, Indigo, I don't want to give you instructions over the line. If you give us a call at 713-599-1144 or go on our website at montgomeryheart.com, you can reach out to our team or go to montgomeryheart.com/journey. You can connect with our community. We have a diabetes support group. But just connect with someone in our facility and we can maybe, arrange something where you get into one of our programs. If you're in the Houston area or can come to the Houston area, we can work with you. But suffice it to say, in this setting, there are ways around it. And I think you should find a doctor in your location who's willing to work with you on making simple lifestyle changes. We talk about aggressive lifestyle changes, raw detox, et cetera. But there are a lot of people make just simple exercising more, reducing processed foods, et cetera. You can make some simple lifestyle changes and reduce your requirement for insulin. But if you're type 2 diabetic, I really push that you try to minimize not only insulin, but other drugs, because the fewer medication you're taking, the better off you are. And I say that, I'm not practicing medicine on YouTube, but I'm just saying that in general, you want to be on fewer medications as you can. Now, Mystic Seer Tara, can we eat Beyond Meat burgers? So Misty is a Beyond Meat burger fan. The answer is, well, I mean, you can eat Beyond Meat burgers because it's a free country. I don't recommend it, however, but I think it's not good for you. And I think I like that question, Mystic, because your question brings about an important point. Because a lot of people talk about vegan this and vegan that and vegan what. I can put you on a vegan diet and make you more unhealthy than somebody's eating oxtails and ribs every day, because you can have the wrong food. Bad food by definition is bad. And so the key is to avoid bad food of any type. So that's why I try to avoid the labels, that we talk about. I think plant foods are superior on the origin of a diet. That people that do well on diets that have healthy plant foods and they have minimal toxic foods and they get away with it or whatever the case is. So there's a whole spectrum of things. We use a plant-based diet for people who come in with severe diseases. And when we put them on a plant-based diet, we certainly don't just say vegan, but we define exactly what it is. But I don't like Beyond Meat burger. What do you think about Beyond Meat burgers, Esosa?
Well, there's the Beyond Meat and then there's the Impossible burgers. And I just generally put that in a category of highly processed food in general. I find that if I'm trying to work with someone to heal something, I want to reduce their toxic load overall, just how we were talking about with weight loss. So I find that a lot of my patients who like to eat those things, it causes sometimes gastrointestinal problems and other issues like they're realizing they're having bloating or they're having weird stuff after they eat. Some don't even notice, actually. They just keep eating it. And then they're like, hey, I started to notice I have more gas or I have this. And then I'm like, wait, what are you eating? And it comes back to some of this over highly processed stuff. So I generally am trying to encourage them with stuff.
Yeah, I think yeah, we're there. No, it's excellent. No, we got the whole point. Again, I agree with you. The toxins in the food is really critical. The toxins are, and it's not, and that's why I'm careful with the labels, because a lot of people, I've been eating vegan for X number of years and SOS, whatever, but you have a lot of preservatives and you're getting stuff out of cans and so on and so forth. So,
right. At the end of the day, that was made in a lab. Like they literally had to make it. Like these fake meats are made in the lab, and they're trying to make it for people, meat eaters, and they're trying to simulate meat. But the things they have to do to simulate meat are very unnatural. So you have to think about it like, if I eat this, is my body gonna be like, WTF? Like, what is this? Like, what is this thing? Or is my body gonna be like, this is a potato, or this is, So if I know my body's gonna say WTF, I don't eat it.
What does WTF stand for anyway?
A bad word.
I'm just teasing. Yeah. Would you advise to eat meat substitutes without the carbs? No, I mean, I think Mystic mentioned without the bread. The bread is bad and the meat substitute is probably worse. So if somebody hands you a Beyond Burger sandwich, I would take off the buns. I would take off the tomatoes and whatever else is on it because it's been contaminated by the Beyond Meat burger. Then I'd take off the Beyond Meat. Then I'd wipe the plate off and throw it away. And so it's all contaminated. Beyond Burger, any thoughts? Stay away from it is my thought. A number of people are in our community. Let me just give a word about our community. The Montgomery Heart and Wellness Optimal Health Journey community. You can go to montgomeryheart.com/journey. I invite you to join the community. We actually have discussions like this where we go more in depth. We have guest speakers come and talk, give grand rounds. I have a Stump the Chump session once a month where you can ask me any question you want. And so we discuss a lot and give you a lot of content the recipes and special videos. So it's a much richer and in-depth discussion on topics in the support group. So if you have diabetes or heart disease or you have weight loss issues, then getting on Montgomery Heart community. And so go to montgomeryheart.com/journey and learn more about this program. So I think it'll be very helpful. Indigo Fire said, I think she's a type 1. Are beans okay to eat? Beans are okay to eat, I think, in certain circumstances. It depends on how you prepare the beans, where you get them from, they're soaked or not. But generally, beans are thought to be very good. I eat a lot of sprouted beans. There are places you get nice sprouted beans. You can make sprouted bean salads. They're delicious. So I like sprouted beans. I don't know. What are your thoughts on beans?
Beans are great. Not everyone can, if someone is having digestive issues, sometimes they can't consume beans or they can't consume some of those highly fermentable foods. So we have to remove them for a while and see if we can get their gut back together and then bring that back if possible. But beans are great. I definitely agree that they should be soaked and they should be cooked in a certain way if you're going to cook them, so that you don't have as much issues with them when you eat them.
Okay. So
that next question, there was this one. That's a really good question. That's one thing I wanted to say was, from my perspective, because I deal with a lot of hormonal imbalance, even though my patients don't necessarily have diabetes, a lot of people with hormonal imbalance are insulin resistant. Women with PCOS are insulin resistant. And then when I'm dealing with estrogen dominance, I have to also consider insulin issues, because when there's higher levels of insulin, sex hormone binding globulin lowers, that protein that kind of grabs the excess androgens and estrogen. And so if I don't control the way people are taking in sugar, refined sugar, all that stuff, it actually increases their estrogen dominance or increases their androgen dominance, and then furthers their hormonal imbalance problems. So in this particular case, she's talking about stubborn belly fat and hormonal imbalance. One, she would need to figure out what kind of hormonal imbalance she has. Like, it's like, okay, are you estrogen dominant? Are you androgen dominant? Whatever. But the excessive belly fat a lot of times is also just adrenal related issues related to the liver and the adrenals. So that means usually people who are dealing with adrenal related issues need to actually do more relaxing exercise, not aggressive exercise, because they're in that fight or flight too much. They need to sometimes use adaptogens or other things to help them calm down during the day so that the stress doesn't process right into their system. And they also need to control their blood sugar levels by eating in a way, like almost eating in a way like as if you had diabetes, like just eating lower glycemic foods and things like that. Because if they're eating excessive alcohol or refined sugar, that's going to aggravate that. So those are the things that start to kind of work their way, that tire around the middle that people have. It's like, they actually using walking is really good, or yoga or other things like that, and then controlling how you're eating, and then dealing with whatever hormone. You have to figure out which hormonal imbalance you have.
Is ashwagandha an adaptogen that you like? You mentioned adaptogen for adrenal. Do you like to use ashwagandha as one?
So I've started to figure out which adaptogens are better for which clients based on, usually I use their dosha to figure out what might be better for them. I like rhodiola, I like ashwagandha. There's many of them, holy basil. Gaia Herbs has a really nice general adrenal fatigue one, and it kind of has a mixture of a few, but it depends really on that person. That's why I always tell people to consult with someone, especially if they're considering taking herbs. Don't just go run out and get ashwagandha, because sometimes I have clients that are taking stuff and it's doing nothing for them, and that's just because they picked the wrong herb for them, not because the herb is bad. So you just got to know what works for you. I really like rhodiola for myself, and I have certain clients that work with rhodiola, and it works really well with kind of reducing your stress and keeping your mind really sharp. But again, different types of people work better with different types of herbs. One herb isn't one size fits all.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Now, and also she mentioned eating clean. It depends on what you mean by eating clean, and fasting also can contribute to some of these stubborn weight loss issues. Toxins in the food. what's the best way to minimize toxins? I mean, I recommend people consume natural plant foods as close as their natural state as possible. So first of all, you want to try to get sustainably grown or organically grown plant foods in your community. Then when you bring them to your house, you want to consume them without, excess heating or, microwaving or et cetera, et cetera. Consume them as close to natural as possible. And the other thing is fasting, reduce your feeding state. So if you're just drinking water, maybe a distilled water or a well alkalinized water, and you're feasting only maybe 5 hours, or 4 hours, or 6 hours in a day, you have a longer fasting period so you can remove toxins from your system. We also use infrared sauna for our patients to help remove toxins through that mechanism. So there are a lot of ways to minimize toxins by not putting in processed foods or chemical foods or animal protein, and just consuming all natural plant foods. That's the approach we use. Okay. Bloating for me started when I stopped meat. Maybe it's the transition of legumes, tofu, etc. I've always had greens with meat. Maybe I'm eating too much fiber too soon. I mean, your body goes through a transition. So when you start, the bloating starts when you stop eating meat. Well, you have those abnormal, microbes in there, and then you start eating other foods, the legumes. I think Esosa mentioned soaking ahead of time. I've eaten a lot of raw plant foods. Also, food combination. Your food combining is an important issue. But transitioning to a plant-based diet can cause bloating because your gut flora is all jacked up, if you will. And so, your body's going to go through a transition. But some of the things I would consider doing is be careful with your food combining. You don't want to eat like fruits along with heavy meals that are slow transit. So most fruits are rapidly transit foods. So you eat those earlier. You may want to go with mono meals or posse meals. So, maybe one food at a time or maybe one or two foods at a time. So simple things like that I found to be helpful with the bloating. Any other thoughts, Esosa, on the bloating?
Well, when someone says bloating stop when they stop eating meat, I go, maybe your stomach acid might be low or there's something else going on there where you weren't breaking stuff down right. So sometimes digestive enzymes and stuff can help people, especially if they're having issues. Like if you're seeing undigested, food in your stool or anything like that, you should definitely look into that and figure out, does my body have all the building blocks to break my food down properly? But
Yeah.
when I talk about bloating, there's so many issues that can come up. There's like, does this person have a candida problem? Do they have a parasite problem? Do they have low stomach acid? There's so many things that can come up just from the instance of bloating. And then, like you said, food combining is a big one too. A lot of people are just mixing all different types of foods together and expecting their body to be able to process it properly, and it can't. And so it causes discomfort and all that stuff. And a lot of women with hormonal issues, fibroids and stuff like this, have excessive bloating and gut issues. And so that actually comes from hormonal issues. And when we start to deal with the hormonal issues, their bloating goes away. So you got to look at where you are on the whole, issue with bloating.
Perfection. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Harold King, good info on diabetes. Will be 10 nutrition boot camps have an impact on heart failure. Okay, and occasional irregular rapid heartbeat, skip beats, normal, regular beat, blah, blah, blah. So in fraction response, I think it's talking about ejection fraction. So from the heart standpoint, if you're looking at heart rhythm problems and the like, I think in my talk on inflammation of the heart, I touched upon some of the mechanisms of inflammation and increased oxidative stress. And what happens is that they've looked at that and they see how at the cellular level, increased oxidative stress and inflammation both causes an influx in calcium in the cells and also impairs sarcoplasmic reticulum function, which sort of modulates calcium function inside the cells. So that can lead to cardiac arrhythmias such as atrial fibrillation and cardiac and ventricular arrhythmias. It can also lead to weakening of the heart, which can decrease the ejection fraction. Skip beats are all rhythm related. So what you're seeing with these skip beats and abnormal heart rhythm is something related to inflammation, oxidative stress, and it affects the heart at the cellular level. And so we've seen patients whose atrial fibrillation is well controlled on a plant-based diet. I've had lots of patients with severe heart failure who typically are considered, if they're in atrial fibrillation, they're in chronic atrial fibrillation, and they can't be converted. But what I do is I put them on a raw detox diet, and their atrial are huge. And I put them on like an antiarrhythmic drug like amiodarone for a short period of time. The amiodarone has lots of side effects, but I do that temporarily. So then even though they're still in AFib on the detox diet, I'll then take them and I'll shock their hearts. I'll cardiovert them, get them out of atrial fib and sinus rhythm. And as long as they're still on a plant-based diet, a clean, raw plant-based diet predominantly, then what we see is that the heart stays in sinus rhythm, the atrial shrinks a little bit, and I'm able to wean them off the amiodarone. And so we've seen that in a number of cases. And all that's happening is that the natural nutritional effects is enhancing heart function at the cellular level. So you're reversing some of the scarring, reversing some of the biochemical effects, reversing, mitochondria is becoming healthier, it's being fed. So more ATP production, fewer reactive oxygen species at the cellular level, fewer calcium influx, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things can help with abnormal heart rhythm, and you can do that primarily with nutrition. And in fact, I think it's superior to the actual drugs from our experience. Ann Gray Smith is 16 years past double bypass surgery. Congratulations. I hope you're on a plant-based diet. I think anybody who's had bypass should be on a 100% plant-based diet, detoxing, etc. I really encourage anyone who isn't a member to join. Thanks, Age Olivet. Join the journey. Jack and Dr. Montgomery are so engaging. So it is, if you haven't heard, montgomeryheart.com/journey. Join the journey for as little as a cup of coffee a month. You can become an insider, but I recommend you invest 3 cups of coffee a month and become an inner circle member, and you get all the great information and much more detailed information. Like we try to help you become your own expert, health expert. So join the journey, join the community. I always cook and eat at home. That's actually a good exercise to do. You control your food, you control what goes in it. How to learn more about your program, Esosa. Esosa, how do we learn more about your program? Well, Esosa's so busy. She says, what?
No, that's Brenda, right? Brenda, you can go to therawgirl.com, and that's where all of the stuff is. But if you go to classes and you click on the button that says classes or programs, it'll take you to stayingazisuniversity.com, and that's where I have a hormonal balancing academy, and that's where I deal with a lot of women with hormonal issues. So we help women with fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, infertility, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we've had exceptional results. So you can check us out there.
Now, I'll put therawgirl.com in the chat. Can they find all that stuff from there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hold on a second. And I'm going to just go to the, let me just I'll do a screen share and share the website with everybody. Hold on one second. Here's the website, therawgirl.com. I put that in the screen. I also will make a little sticker and put it on the screen as well so you guys can find it. So that's therawgirl.com, and you can find it. So it's there. So let's see, we get a few more questions before we sign off. Let's see, laugh out loud. What are some foods? Oops. What are some foods that you personally consume daily? I eat a big salad with locally grown greens. I'll have, sometimes shredded carrots and things in it. Today we call the Montgomery salad, had, greens and olives. I consume a lot of sprouts or microgreens in my salad. And I also consume a good number of other foods, seeds. I'll do chia seeds and some foods, hemp seed. We do a lot of pumpkin seeds in the foods I consume. Maybe be like in a dressing or something like that. And then I try to do bitter herbs. I've kind of slacked off on my bitter herbs lately. I'm going to get back on the bitter herbs. I need to do more bitter herbs, but I've done bitter. Sometimes I'll do neem leaf or neem bark. Those things are extremely bitter. But that's what I do. Esosa, how about you?
Well, how I eat depends on where I am these days.
That's fine. You're a jet setter. You.
So because I'm living between the United States and Africa, like when I'm in the States, and also like it's been wonderful to be here in Houston and the weather is glorious. So whenever the weather is glorious, I can eat raw and I feel really good on raw. If I'm cold, I don't do as well. My body doesn't do as well eating 100% raw, but I do eat a lot of raw food. So since we've been here in Houston, I've been eating a lot of your food, Dr. Montgomery, at the Garden Kitchen. And
thanks for the shout out at the GK.
And that's been glorious. I've been feeling amazing. But when I'm in Africa, what I have to do is I have to try to balance the potential parasitic infections, bacterial infections, and all the other challenges. But I still have, so we tend to cook our vegetables, but we get them fresh. We get them from the market. We also have a garden. I eat a lot of fresh coconut while I'm there too, so that I can get something that's raw. I eat a lot of fresh fruit because the fruit in Africa is incredible. It tastes way better. There's no point in eating a mango in America, child. Please take your butt to Africa. Get you some mango, some pineapple, coconut. It tastes completely different. So I eat a lot of fruit. And then we actually bring a lot of our vegan, convenience food over to Africa because there's no Whole Foods, child. You just go to the market and that's it. So we bring certain things like, bean flour pasta or whatever it is that, things that are convenient that we can't get here. We bring them there. But I'm always improvising. I tend to cook more there. And then when I'm here in the States, I'm trying to be raw. So.
Wow. So that your environment dictates it, but you still can stay on a healthy diet. You just have to maybe manipulate it a little bit from one environment to the other.
You have to manipulate it a little bit, and then I have to be really careful with. And we still eat salad and stuff too. It's just you really have to wash your vegetables. So it's a whole process of soaking in vinegar and washing because I wish I had a picture to show y'all, but it's like if I go get a potato from the market, the potato just came out the ground. It didn't just it's not the same as getting a potato in the grocery store. So we got to get all the debris off of it, wash it properly before you. So that's a whole job in itself before you even start, before you start cooking or.
But there you're dealing with a richer, healthier soil. So that potato out of the ground. I mean, here we got toxins in our soil. So I mean.
Well, so the soil is healthier, Dr. Montgomery, but then you got to deal with the problem is sanitation, right? So you can get sick from, there's a lot of people getting, various bacterial infections and different things because of the sanitation issues, because there's too much like sewage around, there's too much. So that's where you got to be careful, and that's where you have to be extra cautious about cleaning your stuff.
Gotcha. Let's see here. So we're talking about calcium oxalate. Stop eating animal protein, number one. Some greens can really cause calcium oxalates. It's best to detox first before switching to a plant-based diet, get toxins out of will. We've detoxed thousands of patients, and most people tolerate getting on a plant-based diet as a detox. We can make minor adjustments, but our experience has been most people tolerate it very well. A lot of people that have trouble early on are people with autoimmune mediated inflammatory diseases that affects the gut bowel. So inflammatory bowel disease or different types of inflammatory conditions of the bowel. And in those situations, we'll put them like on smoothies or cold pressed juices where there's less digestive effort for the body. And then as their GI tract heal, then we can add more plant foods. And so that's been our experience with patients. But for the most part, the GI problem is if you have a disease, inflamed GI system, those people have the most difficult time because it's, you have to deal with that head on. I'm on a carnivorous diet, was able to reverse my type 2 diabetes. I was wondering if I'm having oxalate dumping, detoxing from a year of high oxalate. It's possible. But oxalate plants, really you have to eat a large amount of oxalate plants. I mean, people talk about spinach and kale can release oxalates, but I think you have to eat a large amount of it. So thank you for the being informative element for the change of better health, healing, prevention. Thank you very much, Al King. And Gray's been commenting a lot. I have adrenal gland tumor, check every few years. What can I do? These adrenal gland tumors, I've treated a number of patients with it. And what I'll say is this, that a lot of people have adrenal gland dysfunction, quote unquote, whether or not we find a tumor. And so I've had one patient comes to mind, she has severe hypertension, blood pressure, 240 over 140, heart rate in the 100s. We had her in the hospital. She was on 10 different medications. We did every test known to man. We did, we checked for pheochromocytoma, renal stenosis. We did imaging of the adrenals and all of that stuff, looking for pheochromocytoma and adrenal tumor. And what we did is we did something special. We measured the adrenal output. So I got my interventional radiologist put a catheter in her adrenal veins, and we measured the amount of adrenaline put out by one adrenal versus the other. And one adrenal is put out like 150 times the amount of adrenal than the other. And both look normal on MRI, et cetera. But I got with my colleague, and she was in the hospital for a better part of, actually 60 days to be honest in total. And we said, let's take out that adrenal. So I got with my urologist colleague, and so we went endoscopy, took it out. Her blood pressure plummeted after. And after that, it was easily controlled with one medication. And it was a challenge, but we addressed that problem, and she did well. I've since saw maybe a handful of other patients with a similar problem, and they weren't as severe as her, so we're going to have to take the adrenal glands out. I think we only removed maybe 2 more adrenal glands based on that. I should have written it up. But when we looked at it on the pathology report, it didn't show anything like pheochromocytoma, et cetera. It just showed hyperplasia. In fact, they didn't use the word hyperplasia. They said increased medullary prominence. They said it was definitely abnormal, but it didn't look like anything else, such as pheochromocytoma or hyperplasia. So she had an abnormally functioning adrenal gland, and it wasn't responsive to the feedback measures. So it's just putting out adrenaline as though, it heard or saw or responded to nothing. And so the pressure was high, and we had to remove it. We've seen other patients with similar type phenomenon, and they responded well to detox. So I think metabolic imbalances probably contribute to this. But yeah, adrenal gland tumor, yes, you may have some abnormal output, but if they're able to control your blood pressure, without having to remove the adrenal gland, that's good. What can I do? I think you need to detox. I mean, I hate to sound like broken record. I think you need to detox. Looking at adrenal gland function, looking at cortisol levels, looking at the biochemistry, I think is all important. But the tumor is there because of some excess growth. It could be due to some metabolic problem, toxic involvement, et cetera. But you don't have to go through surgery. You think the simple thing to do is detox, and then you can start to look at other possible approaches. Yes, I need to put an order in the Garden Kitchen. Yes, Aaron, Garden Kitchen, thanks for the shout out. Garden Kitchen has delicious food. Yes, thanks for the shout out. My blood pressure is always crazy. I think it's the adrenal. Yep, that's true. That's some things you can do. If you're in the Houston area, give us a shout. We can help you look at some of the details. This Esosa is great. I mean, we've gone over time. I think it didn't feel like we've gone over time, but it's always a great time. And thank you. Everybody give Esosa a digital round of applause for coming back and joining us. She came all the way over from Sierra Leone to the United States and come to Houston and say hello to you guys. Made a special trip. So thank you very much for coming and joining us. And Daniel has a lot to say about spinach leafy greens. But I think we're out of time right now. I want to thank you guys. Thank you, folks. I'll see you backstage. I'll close out. And we will, y'all give her applause. Thank you very much. I'll see you backstage. So again, as usual, I learned a lot, and I hope you guys have learned a lot. And as I've said before, give us a thumbs up. Please share and subscribe if you hadn't had a chance to do so, or share this information with anyone that you think can benefit from it. What we try to do is give you an understanding for the underlying mechanisms of disease, underlying mechanisms of health. So if you understand something, you really understand it, then you own it. And once you own it, you can truly deal with it. So I hope this has been helpful for you. We will be back next week, God willing, and we will have a wonderful show for you at that time. I don't have the title tonight, but it'll probably be related to fatty liver disease. So stay tuned. But until then, keep it fresh, natural, and live.